So for those of you guys that don't know, the Regulation D rules did get announced. They start July 1st. So just because everyone's talking about these rules, they're not legal on ranked. You can't take these Pokemon on ranked right now. They start at the end of the month, the 1st of next month, July 1st. But the rules state that you can use Pokemon that you brought over from Pokemon Bank, and basically everything is legal other than restricted Pokemon. So there are a lot of Pokemon that are legendary Pokemon, like things like Moltres, Regieleki, Urshifu, Zapdos. But then there's restricted legendaries, things like Kyogres, Groudons. Basically, if it's on the cover of the game, you can't use it. You also can't use mythicals like Diancie and stuff like that, even if you can transfer them over. But you still can use things like both Landorus forms. There's a lot of new changes that the Genie's got. You use things like Glastrier. You can use things like Thundurus. You can use things like Zapdos. So there's a lot of cool things that we're going to be able to do in this format. And there's also all like the Legends Arceus Pokemon that were brought over. So what I'm going to be doing today is making a little tier list of sorts where I rank all of the Pokemon that are, well, I rank all the like the legendaries and all the other like starters that we've been able to trade over, and just basically go over where I think they're going to fall on the competitive viability list. This is just something that I found on Tier Maker. I'll leave a link in chat in case people want to make their own tier lists at home. But yeah, there's a lot of, these are basically all the Pokemon that are returning, and there's going to be a lot of these that aren't legal, and there's going to be a lot that are legal. So I want to talk a little bit about each one, what they're really going to be bringing to the table, and the effect that they're going to have on the VGC format as a whole. So hopefully you guys like this sort of stuff. Hopefully you guys like this sort of stuff. Let's give the notifications out. Look at me doing my YouTuber intro without remembering to actually tell people that we're live, right? Of course. So I think we should probably start by putting things in just the not legal category that are not legal. Coco Bundle. See, that's the thing, is like, I think Coco's going to be really good, but it's going to be hard to say. It's going to be hard to say. I actually think Trick Room's going to be better than like people are actually willing to admit, because like Trick Room still has a lot of really good tools. You're basically going to have to imprison it, I think, in this format. I think this format's going to end up looking a lot more like it's going to end up looking a lot more like Series 12, right? Tapus aren't allowed yet. If they're, I don't think so, because they weren't transferred, right? So yeah, the Tapus aren't legal yet. All right, so let's start this off by just going and putting all the Pokemon that aren't actually legal in the not legal category, right? So that's going to be things like Mewtwo. It's going to be things like Mew. Guys, feel free to let me know if I miss anything. Things like Restricteds, like these guys, they're not legal yet. They're in the game, but you cannot use them. There are Pokemon that you can use that are busted, like Cresselia, though. So don't sleep on Cresselia. Let's see. Yo, is that a big sub? Yo, thank you! Holy moly, 25 months. What's different about Regulation D? You can use basically everything except for mythicals and restricted legendaries. So you're thinking like, what? Why are there so many things that aren't legal? Like, these are usually never legal. They're only legal for like a limited time, usually. And, where's Zacian? I feel like I'm leaving out the Zacian. Did I just not see it? I feel like I skipped Zacian. I feel like Zacian's hiding in here somewhere. Let's see. You can use both these little ghost horses, but you can't use the Calyrex form of it. Oh, not that ghost, not that horse. There we go. And where is Zacian? You placed it already? I got Zenta. Oh, Zacian over there. Thank you. Cool. So that should be all of the Pokemon that currently aren't legal, right? There's a lot. They might be legal in the future, but I think that's all of them. The rest of these guys should be legal. And if you guys want me to make a tier list where I go over and rank every single basically Pokemon that will be viable in these formats. So like imagine this tier list, but also with like the Paradox Pokemon so we can see how they stack up, as well as like the Ruinmons and other just general good meta Pokemon. I might be able to make something like that work, but just let me know if you guys want to see that sort of content. Alright, so let's start things off with Alolan Raichu, right? Alolan Raichu is actually a really, really good Pokemon. What we're going to be doing is taking a look at like base stats for all of these Pokemon. Basically, while we do this. So, Alolan Raichu. Look at this. So, Alolan Raichu looks a little bit like this. It has a 110 base speed, which is a really, really good number. It gets Surge Surfer, which, if the Electric Train is active, this Pokemon's speed is doubled. So, since there's no Koko, it's not actually like required to be good. I still think regular Raichu's like better. That being said, I think this Pokemon is still good. Alolan Raichu is always going to be one of my favorites. I've taken this thing to Worlds before. I've done a lot of stuff with it. It's just a good Pokemon. A base 110 speed Pokemon with Fake Out is always viable. It gets Fake Out Encore. If there are shenanigans where, we were recently using a team that used like hard casting Electric Train, this Pokemon can do so many cool things. Like what you can do with this Raichu is you can lead Raichu with like something that casts Electric Train, or even something like a Pincurchin, and you can go Fake Out the fast thing, right? Hard cast your Electric Terrain, let them Tailwind, and then your Raichu's going to double its speed because of the Surge Surfer. And then you can actually just like Encore their Mon that used Tailwind and just basically make it so your other Mon is fighting a 1v1 versus their other Mon that already got Fake Out and has its potential Sash broken. So it's actually not terrible, but I do think Raichu's like a very cool Pokemon, and I'm probably going to rate it higher than most people. Up next is going to be Alolan Dougie. I don't think this Pokemon's very good. It loses some speed from the regular Dugtrio, and it loses Arena Trap, right? So, yes, it has Steel ground typing, but this Pokemon's just not very good. It's a little bit of a Glass Cannon. Tangling Hair's not that great. This Pokemon is like a perfect example of like power creep getting out of control, and, not every regional form can actually just stack up. So, I think this guy's definitely going to go into the not great category. I'm not going to put that many Pokemon in the not great category. I just definitely think that like Dougie's one of them. So Alolan Persian. I actually really like Alolan Persian. And I think, yeah. So Alolan Persian gets Fur Coat and Technician and Rattled. All three of these abilities are actually viable. This Pokemon's actually very good. It's a Dark type, which means it can't get like Pranked or Taunted, which is very important. And it gets access like Sab Foul Play. It gets Fake Out. A 115 base speed tier. Having a faster Fake Out users, if the meta's ever built around Fake Out, like in past formats where Incineroar is very important, and well, Incineroar's not in this game, but if the meta's ever built to where like Fake Out's required to like set up pins with like setting up Trick Rooms or Tailwinds and things like that, and having a faster Fake Out user can kind of brick all of your opponent's flowcharts, right? If they're required to use Fake Out to then set Tailwind, Trick Room, or any sort of setup move or any sort of combo-based play, you can Fake Out their Fake Out user and do your thing that stops them from doing their thing. So in terms of Fake Out users, Alolan Persian's probably one of the best in the game. Better only, like the only thing that would be better would be something like Incineroar. That being said, this thing gets a bunch of cool moves too. It gets like Chilling Water, it gets Fake Out, Fake Tears, Icy Wind, it gets things like Power Gem. This thing's a very, very underrated Pokemon, and I would definitely put, it's not great, but it's definitely like in the upper echelon of like a good Pokemon. You would never really be wrong in including one of these in your team. So I feel that when Miraidon becomes legal, Alolan Raichu will also be good. Probably, yeah. Does it get Pursuit? Nothing gets Pursuit. Pursuit's not in the game. Alright, Hisuian Arcanine. Hisuian Arcanine. If we compare both of these Arcanines here, you can see they actually have a little bit different stats. Hisuian Arcanine has a little bit more HP, a little bit more attack, less special attack, and less speed. So it's a little bit bulkier and stronger. It still keeps the Intimidate, it keeps the Flash Fire, and it changes out Justified for Rockhead. So it's going to be really weird. I think both Arcanine forms are going to be used. But I actually this is a really, really good example of like, I actually think Arcanine's going to be just not very good in this format, right? If you're thinking about like me saying Arcanine not being good, right now, Arcanine's kind of just okay. It's kind of just like, I guess I need an Intimidator, I'll use Arcanine. Versus most people are already like using Gyarados and stuff like that. But you got to think, we're going into a format that is adding so many amazing legendary Pokemon, like Landorus, like Regieleki, like all the legendary birds, all the other genies. There's just not really a situation where I think like Hisuian Arcanine is going to be better. Case in point, you don't see people use Arcanine in restricted formats. You saw people use Incineroar because it's like an Arcanine with Fake Out and Parting Shot. This Arcanine doesn't have that. So it's kind of like an Arcanine Rampardos because it just has so many. It's adding weaknesses to like ground, even more weakness to water, adding weakness to fighting and stuff like that. I'm just not the biggest fan of this thing. Neutral to steel, like, you see what I mean? It's like, it's good. It's good. But, like, just not the biggest fan of Arcanine. Yeah, Urshifu's going to absolutely tear you a new one. You know what I mean? Absolutely. So, his Slowbro. Galar Slowbro, right? So, Galar Slowbro. Alright. Galarian Slowbro. I want to show... Actually, let's just go with Slowbro. So, you can see Slowbro has, like, the two different forms. They both have 30 base speed, which is very nice. But they have, like, a couple different things. Galarian Slowbro has a lot more attack. It has a little bit less defense, a little bit less spadef, so it's a little bit more offensive. It has the Quick Draw ability, which basically gives it a 30% chance to go first in its priority bracket. And you get Shell Sidearm, which is good. 20% chance to poison, plus it would go either physical or special, depending on which would be stronger. It's a cool Mon, right? It's a cool Mon. I just don't know how well it's going to do in a format dominated. Like, again, don't want to be that guy, right? What type is this thing? It's Poison. Poison Psychic. So it loses to... I just want to get this through you guys' head. It loses to, like, every single legendary. It loses to, like, Landorus, loses to Thundurus, loses to Regieleki, loses to Spectrier, loses to all of it, really. So it's going to be hard to make this Pokemon be good. I definitely put this guy in the mid. It's way too many weaknesses. Regular Slowbro would just be better, I think. Shell Sidearm is not, like, something you would even really use. You'd probably still use, like, Regenerator, unless you wanted to, like, Quick Claw Shell Sidearm and just go for the memes. But, yeah, I definitely think this is, like, a mid-tier Pokemon. Alolan Muck. Alolan Muck's different, though. Alolan Muck has some amazing typing, and we can actually talk about Muck. So it has the same base stats, right? And I think Alolan Muck actually loses some tools. It loses knockoff, right? It's going to lose knockoff. I think it doesn't say it, but I'm pretty sure it loses knockoff. And if it doesn't, that's great. But Alolan Muck's very, very bulky. It can be able with Poison Touch or Gluttony. Gluttony's still very, very good if you wanted to use that. Power of Alchemy is also kind of cool. I think Alolan Muck is very, very usable. Reason being, a lot of these legendaries, Landorus can hit it for super effective. Muck can always tear away. Also, Muck doesn't really care that much about Landorus if you pair it with an Intimidator or something. And if you don't get Oko by Landorus, this is going to be able to weather any all-in play and just be able to trade really well with something. It has knockoff still. That's great. Yeah, so I think Muck's going to be definitely... I'm going to go on a limb here and put Muck up here. I've just played enough formats with this Pokemon to know that you can never really kill it. I remember in 2017, you would Earthquake this thing with Garchomps and it would just, like, live at, like, 30%, proc a berry, and just, like, never die, and then, like, Ice Punch or Garchomp or some shit. You know, it's like... Muck's really, like, a good Pokemon. I don't think Ursaluna is a problem. If there was a tier for just overrated Pokemon, you'd put Ursaluna there, and Ursaluna doesn't... Ursaluna, we'll talk about it when we get to it, but it's not actually, like, a threat. And if you think that Ursaluna is good because XYZ people are saying it's good, you're falling for a trap. Because, like, they want you to think it's good, so you'll use it so they can beat you. Like, that's basically it. Like, if Pokemon's, like, really overhyped, it loses to Fake Out, Redirection, Intimidate, Screens, Status. It's a Snorlax, but worse. It's a Snorlax without any of the redeeming qualities that Snorlax has. You just think about that. Alright, Hisuian Electrode. So Electrode, it still has the 150 base speed, which I really like. It has Grass typing, which I actually think is a buff. It's going to give it a couple other options. It has Soundproof, it has Static, Aftermath, all solid stuff. It gets Chloroblast, which I didn't know this was a move. Is this still... Bro, that's sick. That's so good. Like, we're out here. Electrode only needed one other move to actually be viable, and I think I'm going to use this thing. I think it's really good. This is a great switch-in for Amoonguss. It gets Seeds, Leaf Storm. Like, bro, I'm, like, all about this. Volt Switch. Like, I think this Pokemon... I would put this a lot higher than most people. I'm going to put it in the good tier. I don't think it's great because I think that, I mean, I might put it in great. I like this Pokemon. Yeah, it's fast taunt. Like, fuck it, I will put it in great. I think Electrode's really cool. I think it's really, really cool. Yo, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. I'm gonna put there, like, you know, around these parts, we stand Electrode, okay? Right? Around these parts, we stand Electrode. I think this Pokemon's really good. Bro said status stops him on that has guts. Okay, so, like, what happens when I spore you before your thing activates? Like, what? What happened? Bro said the truth, right? Status, like, what? You just because you have guts doesn't make you protect. Is this? Oh, so you're playing passive and you're losing. You lose. So if you're protecting your team, you lose a Mon. It doesn't work like that. You know, it's like, I don't think people understand that, like, Ursaluna only wins when you're winning. If you've done all the work to set up a situation where Ursaluna wins, you've already won. You could win with any Pokemon. You could win with a Greedent. You could win with a Torkoal. You could win in so many different ways. Like, it's a win more Pokemon. You've already, like, done all the work. Let's just do Ursaluna now, since, like, that's the only thing people, like, ever want to talk about regarding these things. Where's Ursaluna? It's the last one, right? This Pokemon, all right, Ursaluna. It has a 50 base speed, which means it gets undersped by everything in Trick Room, right? So you just lose the Torkoal. What a good Pokemon, right? And 140 base attack's cool. You still get intimidated. 130 base HP is getting diminishing returns on stuff. 105 defense is great off that stat line. 80 speed up is good, but, like, Guts is such a mid ability that even if, like, you go through the trouble to get your Protect and then you get your proc, you're taking damage, and, like, all I have to do is just intimidate it once. And it's like you're back down to neutral. And then, like, yeah, it has, like, decent coverage, close combats, it gets earthquakes, facades, all those things, but it's mostly single target. And I just don't see what this thing really does to, like, Landorus. I don't, like, it has Avalanche, okay? And it's like, it's not viable. It's not. It's not as good as it looks. There's a Pokemon that's better than Ursaluna. It's called Snorlax, right? Is Snorlax legal right now? No. But Snorlax has better Spadef, which is going to be more important for this format, right? You say after you Lilligant next to it? How are you setting Sun and getting, like, after you Lilligant next to this Ursaluna? Within Facade Okalando? No, you're intimidated. Right? So, like, you go really cool. I'll plug all these things in for you. Alright, we got Ursaluna right here. Landorus. Landorus Therian. So many Landorus Therian sets. Alright, so you want Facade, right? Facade. Alright, let's give you a burn. Status. Well, actually, let's not give you the burn because you don't have it yet. You don't just start out burned. It's gut boosted. How do you get the guts boost? Where does it come from? How long does it take to get it? It takes a full turn. So when you're, for example, if you were to click Protect and I were to click Swords Dance with my Lando, or literally fucking anything, I could just swap the Lando, bring it back in for a second Intimidate, and your guts boost, not only is it gone, you're at -1 now. Like what? Diamond's right on top of it. It's like, this Pokemon is so bait. But let's just give you your best case scenario. Flame Warp, because it costs your item to do that, right? And let's give you a full attack. Oh man, that's a lot of damage on the Facade, right? So much damage. Let's make you intimidated. I mean, that's one Intimidate already there. So we knew, well, what a good Pokemon. I don't die now. And you're taking, I literally just had to have a Lando. Like, it's not even hard. And then, like, what if I wanted to do something with Lando? Like, I don't know, like, not Supersonic now. Because, like, even if you do protect, you don't have any, like, speed control, you know? And what if, like, I wanted to be adamant? Because my attack's actually higher than yours. And, like, a standard Lando set that's been used for, like, a really long time is something like that. It's like, oh, you're just dead? And obviously they're gonna have HP investment, but do you not see it? What if you used a prankster mom with Will-O-Wisp to, like, turn one side Will-O-Wisp yourself? Like, do you see how combo-based that is? And how, like, how are you doing that when there's, like, a Regieleki just, like, blowing your face up every turn? Good TR tier. So you're saying, I feel like a good TR player is going to make it work. The issue is not that this Pokemon works. The issue is that this Pokemon only wins you games where you've already done all the work to win, and it actively does not contribute to you winning. Right? It does not contribute. So, let's talk about Pokemon that are similar to Ursaluna and go to Hariyama. Hariyama helps Trick Room because it has Wide Guard and Fake Out. Right? So, like, Hariyama, you can go Hariyama and Trick Room Setter and go Fake Out Trick Room, lose one of your mons, do whatever, bring out your Ursaluna or Torkoal, and just win the game, right? But that wasn't a game that was won by Ursaluna. That was a game that was won by Hariyama going for, like, a Fake Out or a Trick Room Setter or, like, a Wide Guard, right? All he has to do is play the format and he'll see Ursaluna's #1 mon. It's not. Like, are you an idiot? Like, we have Landorus right here. It's Landorus. I'm not saying it's like, you know, I'm not putting Ursaluna down here, but it is not, like, broken. Yeah, I think it's best built, like, I think if I were to use Ursaluna, I would probably use it with, like, Bulletproof and Ghost Terra, because this blocks Shadow Ball, right? And then use, like, Protect, maybe, like, a bulk up set, build it more like a bulky Palafin. It's a solid closer. Like, I think it's okay. But then, like, it's not as good as Snorlax at doing that. And, like, you know. I love this. Even though this conversation is playing so simple, it's still teaching so much about the game works and how games flow and how you set up mons to win. You gotta remember, your opponent can't do, like, everything. They can't both, like, set Trick Room and win with Ursaluna if they don't have the right board state. If you just lead, like, Ursaluna and, like, what's your Trick Room setter, you know? Like, what is your Trick Room setter in this format? Is it Armarouge still? Hat. So you lead, like, Ursaluna Hat? Like, that lead gets freaking dumpstered by, like, everything. Cresselia, that's a good one. Cresselia is good there. So yeah, Cress Ursaluna, you might get the Trick Room up. See, because, like, if the Cresselia wants to hold a Mental Herb, it can get Fake Outed, unless it goes Ghost Terra. And if it wants to hold a Covert Cloak, it can get Taunted, right? Or, and on both of those situations, just lose to Imprison, by the way. Mimikyu's a good partner, yeah. Ally Switch, I don't think Ally Switch is on Cress anymore. Indie Hat, Ursaluna, Torkoal Sweep. So, like, the thing about Indie Hat, that wouldn't really work anymore, because, like, we talked about doing that yesterday. You just set up a screen, put up a Snarl, and you just wait out the Indie Hat and leave them with Indie Hat. Yeah, Double Intimidate just rolls. So the thing is, like, everyone's like, you can't use Double Intimidate because I'll just use King Gambit. Well, it's like King Gambit works against things like Arcanine. You know what King Gambit doesn't work against? Landorus. Like, it's okay. You know, people used Bisharp against Landorus, but, like, Landorus is Landorus for a reason, right? Landorus doesn't mess around. I think Thundurus actually has, Snarl. You say Cresselia still has Ally Switch? I don't think it does, though. I really don't. I do not think that it does. Crestball's Lando? It could. But, like, it can't... See, that's the thing. Is it can't beat Lando and set Trick Room at the same time. Because you only get one Protect with your Ursaluna, right? So, if you're doing that, like, Protect Trick Room play, and I lead with, like, a Fake Out Lando board, and I go Fake Out Crest, do my thing with the Lando that seals up your Ursaluna slot, you're going to get Fake Out of your Protection me uncooled, and you're going to be burned. And then I just do it again. If you're swapping, you're losing a piece, right? And then if you get the Trick Room up, like, we're also not even talking about, like, what my teammate could be. Because the teammate's only done, like, a Fake Out or, like, a Taunt or something so far. Ursa also gets bodied by Urshifu, Screw Your Protects. Yeah, we don't even have to even talk about that. You know what I mean? So, where would I put this Pokemon? It's better than Electrode. It's probably better than Muk. It's usable. But it's not something we haven't had before. Like, this thing will see about as much play as Rhyperior did, but without Dynamax. Did anyone play with Rhyperior in like 2015? You saw it. It existed. It's basically an Escavalier. Does it make sense? It's okay. But it's not like broken, busted. I don't know why people think like Guts is like so good. It's not. It takes a turn to activate. It takes your held item. It does damage to you. It's just not good. Yeah, Rhyperior was like common enough, but it wasn't like busted, broken. And you know what Rhyperior lost to every time? Fucking Landorus, dude. So, yeah. Let's go to Tauros. Tauros is actually kind of cool, but I don't think Tauros is going to be that good because we have all the other Tauros forms already. If we take a look at like Tauros forms, they all have the same. Well, this one has 10 more base speed, right? And has a little bit less attack. Basically, most people just play this one with like Sheer Force tech. Sorry, not Sheer Force. Anger Point tech with like stuff like that. But I think that we have better other Tauros forms. So like I would definitely put Tauros in like the. I'm gonna put it in the not great category. I am. Just because we already have so many other Tauros forms that are better, that are literally still Tauros. I think Tauros is fine, because like you could just go Fire Tauros if you don't want the Fairy weakness. I think that Tauros is not great. It gets Intimidate, and if you're already looking for Intimidate, you can just use a Landorus. You're going to start to see a pattern where it's like, oh, Speed Control, Lecky. Oh, like Ghost type, Spectrier. Oh, like Intimidate, Landorus. And like that's your answer to everything. Tauros got Raging Bull? Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Alright, let's go. I've always loved formats that don't have non-restricted. I like using niche teams. Yeah, I like those formats too. I like those formats as well. But it is what it is. Alright, we got Articuno. We got both Articunos. So let's just do both of them. So we can see their base stats here. Articuno Galar has competitive versus Rhaegar Articuno has Pressure Snowcloak. And Rhaegar Articuno got a buff technically because Hail got a buff. Right? Spectre better than Fluttermane? It might be. There are things that Spectrier gets that Fluttermane doesn't get that might be worth mentioning. So both these Articunos are cool. You can see the Galar Articuno has a lot more special attack and less defensive stats and more speed. So one's more of a sweeper, one's more of a wall. That being said, I think Galarian Articuno is going to be pretty decent. I would definitely put Galarian Articuno in the good Pokemon list. I like this Pokemon a lot. I think it doesn't really lose that many tools going from Sword and Shield here. It just has not great defensive typing. And Rhaegar Articuno, I would probably just put like in mid. Just a decent Pokemon. It's better in singles, but it's still usable. There is not an anti-intimidate in a fast pseudo-legendary format. There are fast special attackers that destroy your Defiant Mons. That's the thing, right? You know, Defiant Mons are really cool. But, like, when you're running a Defiant Mon, do you know what you have on the board? When you have, like, a King Gambit, or let's just look up what gets, like, Defiant. Articuno and competitive Mons still fall in this as well. So, Annihilape's is kind of cool, right? But, like, let's say you wanted to run, like, King Gambit, or Zapdos Galar, or, like, a Braviary, or even an Ape. So, you know what you have when you have these on the board? What you have is something that's not Landorus, not Regieleki, not Fluttermane, not Bundle. I know it sounds like I'm a broken record here, but when you have a board state that is not these genies or like Cresselias or like Pokemon that really have like over 100 base stats over their Defiant counterparts, what you're doing is like, is you're throwing, you know, right? It sounds really like, but then what about the trying to get all the diversity, but my diversity. And it's like, that's not this format, bro. Competitive Melodic, that's the thing. It's like when you have a Melodic on the board, what you have is a Pokemon that has no forms of dynamic speed control, is extremely reactive, very one-dimensional. Yes, it can be competitive, but like I could just kill it, right? Those things are only good when you're already winning. You say that's not boring to me? It's incredibly boring. I hate it. But the thing is, like, do you ever see me use those things? You don't. I don't use those things. I'm just being realistic. Right? So it's like, I am not the Landorus stan. Right? That's not me. I use fun stuff. I literally almost got rank 1 in the world last night with Copycat Jolteon. So, I'll still use fun stuff, but like, no one else will. You have to respect the Lando. If you don't, like, you're in for a bad time. Let's see. So Zapdos, both the Zapdos forms are amazing. Both are good. Regular Zapdos is better because it's very bulky. Very, very bulky. They're both, like, technically bulky, but, like, Zapdos just has the right, like, defensive typing to capitalize on it. Really, really, really like regular Zapdos. I would put regular Zapdos actually up into this, like, great Pokemon list. Maybe even, like, teetering on OP. It's very, very good. Versus I'd put Defiant Zap there. It's good. It's basically about as good as, like, any Sash Mom would be. It doesn't have things like Airstream anymore, so it's not going to be nearly as, like, oppressive. Same thing goes for, like, regular Zap, but it doesn't have Airstream anymore. So yeah, Zapdos is very good. It's the perfect pivot. There was teams called Zapcats back in the day in 2018 that was like that was basically the Palance. If anyone knows how Palance plays, Zapcats was Palance back in the day with, like, pivots and good defensive typing and able to, like, analyze the situation and play the game at your tempo. And Zapdos was, like, the Pokemon that made that work. So let's see. So let's go. We got Moltres and Galarian Moltres. Galarian Moltres is busted. Let's go Moltres. So regular Moltres, not that great. Galarian Moltres, very, very good. Amazing Spadef, great special attack. The thing that sets Galarian Moltres apart is the Berserk ability and that it gets Fiery Wrath. It's like a super special Rock Slide, and this thing gets access like Nasty Pot and stuff. I would definitely put, like, regular Moltres in mid, but this is our first Pokemon that I'm going to put in the OP tier, like the S tier. I would definitely put Galarian. This is just super crack typing, and it's one of the few Pokemon that's still going to be able to be played. You can play this in VGC Open Team Sheet Best of 3 with a weakness policy. It actually has, like, very good weaknesses. It's weak against things like Flutter and Bundle, but not to the point where it loses to them. And so it can soak those Icy Winds, soak those Freeze Dries, soak those Deep-Gleams, get a policy proc, and go for a Defiant boost. Weakness policy proc and the Berserk boost, and just double KO both those things back. So you say, so Futterman can check it, but then, like, at that point, they're over-committing into the Moltres slot, where the Moltres player is the one dictating that play. You can protect, you can go Terra away. This is one of those things that even if they see it, it's really, really good. And also, like, you can just go Vested Moltres. Scarf Moltres is still good. I think it still gets after you. It's one of the better after you users. It's very, very good. Yeah, Moltres has 125 Spadef. That's the thing. It's like Moltres is, like, really, really, really good. So, yeah, I really like everything that Galarian Moltres brings to the table. Very, very good Pokemon. There's a reason Wolf used it for, like, a whole year in all those player cups. Like, it's just really, really good. Yeah, I think Moltres is great. So, Typhlosion. Let's take a look at both the Typhlosions. I got my Typhlosion plushie back there. Right? So, there's two Typhlosions. The Typhlosion Hisui is a little bit slower. It's a little bit stronger, right? It gets Frisk instead of Flash Fire. So on ladder, this is now the best Frisk user in the game. So for closed team sheet, this is now the best Frisk user. And Frisk is a very good ability. Like, one of the best abilities in the game. There's a reason people use Dusclops for years and years and years. Frisk, being able to see your opponent's items and then not see yours, is amazing. Typhlosion is one of my favorite Pokemon. I still think regular Typhlosion will be better. Flash Fire is cracked. It's a little bit faster. Base 100 is a very popular number. Yeah, but that being said, I want to see, does this guy still get Eruption? It does still get Eruption, and it's Ghost. So it'd have to be played, they both get played Scarf. But that being said, I'm going to put regular Typhlosion up here because it's the best Eruption user that's not Torkoal. And I'd like to put this up here, but I know it's not. So I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to put it in good. I'd like to put it higher, but I know that it has a million weaknesses. And its only real thing that it has going for it is that it outspeeds Landorus. So if, like, if they want to Scarf Landorus and you Scarf Typhlosion, you can always get that off. I'd I did not just hear some Frisk Grimstone disrespect. I didn't say that. I said Frisk is really good. If you go back and watch one of my first videos for Sword and Shield, I got like 100k views of using Frisk Grim. I like Frisk. Frisk is a very good ability. It's immune to Fake Out. The thing is, like, you can just Ghost Harry your Typhlosion. That's the thing, is like you can. Like, that's the thing, is like being immune to Fake Out means they just fake out your teammate, right? So it's like, it's okay. You know, I actually would rather like the immunity to like E-Speed, right? That's probably bigger. Do you like the Hex that can burn? I don't see a situation where, like, that's better than Eruption. So, yeah. Relation D also be the rule set for Worlds? I don't know, actually. I actually don't know. But yeah, Typhlosion's cool. I plan on using a ton of it. Like, that's definitely my jam. We got Slowking. And I used Slowking recently. I used Slowking on YouTube, like, 2 days ago. There's two Slowkings here. They're both very similar, right? Just has a less attack, so it takes less foul play damage. That's nice. Has Curious Medicine, which is a very unique ability. I've used this 2 times. And in both times, I was able to... One of the times, sorry, I was able to win the tournament where I used it in. This is really good when paired with, like, Goldangos, awkwardly enough. So, like, you know, you go for your Make It Rains, and you pivot in this guy, and you take away your Make It Rain drops. So it's like, there are some situations where this thing's kind of cool. That being said, I don't know if it still gets Chilly Reception. It does. So this Pokemon's okay. This Pokemon is still probably mid, though. Just because it has such bad typing, I think. But it's cool. It's definitely cool. It's not great, but they're definitely just like an acquired taste. Yeah, all the new Pokemon are legal July 1st. Quillfish. And I think it's important to include both Quillfish and Overquill, because the Quillfish line can use Eviolite. And they get some pretty cool stuff. You can see... it's Quillfish, right? So you can see they both get, like, Intimidate. They both get Swift Swim. Very, very good. They're both decent. I think regular Quillfish will still be in the not great category. I don't think, like, an Eviolite user would stack up that well in a format like this. Slowking gets TR, yeah. But the Overquill is actually very good. It's an 85 base speed, which is definitely fast enough to work in this format, especially when you pair it with, like, Swift Swim. This Pokemon's viable, right? I think this might be one of the better... this might be one of the better sweepers for Rain, because it's very, very good defensive typing. It gets stabs, gunk shots. It goes for, like, liquidates. It has the right stuff. Where do you guys think? Yeah, you think it's gonna be used a lot? See, I think I would use this Pokemon a lot. It has very, very good bulk too. That's a great stat line. So it's like, I'm gonna put Overquill. It's definitely in the good. I don't think it's great though. I think it's like, if these aren't actually ordered in the tier, but like, I'm gonna put it in good. I think that, like, realistically, I'd still probably use a Dreadnought. And, like, Dreadnought in itself is not good enough to make me want to use Rain in the first place, so that's why I'm going to not put it that high. Signature ability is better. The signature ability being, like, what? Intimidate? Intimidate's good. I think Olomuck's better. I also like Olomuck better, which is Olomuck's up there, you know? So some user Destimon, yeah, we've had stuff like that before. Those can only be so good, I think. All right, Sneasler. Let's take a look at both of these, the Sneasler and the Sneasel. So, Sneasel Hisui, it keeps the inner focus. So, like, both these things are good. There is a reason why Sneasel sometimes does see play over Weavile, and that's because inner focus is just a really good ability. That being said, it's basically built as a Sashmon, so it's still going to get put in the mid. But let's take a look at Sneasler, right? It gets Pressure, which is good. It gets Unburden, which is good. Poisonous, which is good. It has a 120 base speed, which is great. So this thing's great as, like, a Sash user. It's good on any sort of, like, unburdened teams. Let's see. It gets, like, Close Combat. Dire Claw is amazing. So it's like, this Pokemon's definitely great. This Pokemon just has a lot of good things going for it. So, yeah, I think it's a good Pokemon. It's not, like, ordered anywhere in here, but like it's definitely like, it's basically like this format's like Pheromosa, so it's always going to be respectable. Outspeeds a lot of things, probably still gets access to like fake outs. Yep, fake out right there. It's great Pokemon. Great Pokemon. Like actually like very, very cool Pokemon, I think. Yeah, taunt, U-turn. I'm on sick. Very, very good. Uxie. When we compare Uxie, there's a couple Pokemon we want to take a look at, right? Uxie is better in singles than a lot of other things. But let's compare Uxie to Cresselia, another Pokemon that's in this format, because they both are psychic types with Levitate. Cresselia has 120 base HP, Uxie has 75. That's huge. Relatively same attacks. Uxie has 20 base more defense, right? Uxie has the same special attack. Uxie has 10 more Spadef, and Uxie actually has 10 more speed, which is important in some situations sometimes. But the fact that Cresselia has like 50 more base HP and actually gets a better move pool with actual recovery from Moonlight means Cresselia, it invalidates everything that Uxie would ever be bringing to the table in this format. Uxie gets things like Memento and other stuff like that, but like as lame as it sounds, Uxie's just mid. Like it loses to Urshi, it loses to so many things. And yeah, it's just not great. You say, sorry I didn't hear if you answered, are all Pokemon available for battle? Not until next month. Crest was also nerfed. I think they did. Yeah, I think they nerfed it. Mesprit's another one that, like, why would I use a Mesprit when there's not that... There's so many other good Psychic types. Yeah, all the Galbirds get Tailwind. A lot of things get Tailwind in this gen. So let's just take a look at Mesprit real quick. So if we take a look at like Mesprit, and let's just compare it to Cresselia too, because like, why would I use this, right? It has 40 more base HP than, less base HP than Cresselia. It has 105's like spread. It's a cool Pokemon. It has very, very good coverage, right? But it's only an 80 base speed, which means it gets outsped by literally everything. And 105, this is basically just like a little bit stronger than like a Flygon. There's nothing really worth writing home about. So it definitely goes in mid. That being said, it's still like a legendary. It's not like unusable, but it is what it is. Azelf though. There's a reason we saved the best for last. This is one of my favorite Pokemon in the game. It gets 115 base speed, 125 special attack, and attack can be built physical or special. Has an amazing move pool for both physical and special, and can be built so many different ways. Azelf is definitely a good Pokemon. It's definitely going to be over here. It's usually built Sash, but like people are just talking about like Explosion. Azelf's still very good. I think Azelf's great. Neve says, I used Mesprit over Cresselia once on an imprisoned Tiaramon because of the higher special attack. Ice Beam got me some KOs. Yeah, I think it's still usable. That's the thing. Is like even the things in mid here are still good. They're still legendaries. They still are better than like 90% of the Pokemon that are in the game. But it's just that they're not like broken. That's the thing is like I don't think any of these Pokemon are even bad. Even like the Quillfish and like the Low and Dugtrio and stuff like that. So Mystical Fire is cool. Alright, Heatran. This is the most slept on Pokemon in this whole list. Everyone's like, Lando, Ian Enormous, what is it, Urshifu. Bro, we're getting Heatran back. Do you guys remember Heatran? Do you guys know how busted Heatran is? Heatran is so busted. This is literally like, alright, so Heatran didn't see that much play in Dynamax formats. It didn't. It saw some. But when you're playing like a balanced game and you need something that can like outspeed stuff, take like no damage, and like Heatran is like, is Heatran the death of Eruption Torkoal? It's the death of everything, yo. Heatran, what is Armarouge gonna do to fucking Heatran, bro? Nothing. Heatran destroys everything. Y'all are sleeping if you're not putting Heatran up here, I think. So if we take a look at the meta and what it's going to be, things like Flutter are still really good. Things like Regieleki are going to be good. Wait, yes, Lando's good, but it has to like tunnel into the Heatran, and all Heatran has to do is like not die that one turn to Lando, and the Lando's done, right? And it forces the Lando to come to that match, which means you don't even have to bring Heatran, which means Heatran's exuding pressure in the team preview. So yeah, we got like Flutter, Lando, Aleki, Spectrier, even things like Bundle. Let's take a look at like some other really good Pokemon that are going to be around here. All of the genies, Thundurus, Tornadus, Enormous, all of them. Heatran just comes in freaking hot and lives kills them, stays on the board, and still actually outspeeds all other walls. It's 77 base speeds, but actually has a higher base speed than most other walls. It's so good. Right? It's so good. And it can just be enabled to be actually outspeeding things after Icy Winds. It's good in Tailwind. It's good in Trick Room. Heatrench is great. You say, who do I trust, you or Wolfie, regarding Ursaluna? He called it Omega Turbo Broken. So, that really depends on how you want to look at the game, right? If you want to eat glue, right, and just think that you can just put an Ursaluna in your team, when I went and explained all the situations where Ursaluna already lets you win, is when you're already winning. And if you think that you're winning because of a Pokemon that comes in after you set up everything to win, and that's the reason you won, when you're wrong, right? It's thanks to like your fake outs and your speed tiers and your trick rooms, or what other situations you took. It's the other Pokemon that did work, not the Ursaluna. And what I'm trying to say is, with the Ursaluna, any Pokemon could close out from there. Right? I think Wolf said the same thing about Dracovish. Right? Wolf said the same thing about Dracovish. He said Dracovish busted, just throw a Choice Scarf on it, and you do all these things and it's fine. And then I remember the first regional he went to in Dallas with Dracovish, he lost in the last round of Swiss to someone that used Choice Scarf Dracovish. So it's good enough to beat him. Ursaluna might be good enough to beat him. So yeah, Ursaluna's fine, but it doesn't do anything that hasn't been. It's a worse Snorlax, guys. Where would you put Rillaboom? Rillaboom's on this list. We'll get to it. Yeah, you can also, you don't have to listen to me either. I don't think Ursaluna is that great. I don't see myself using this Pokemon. It just doesn't really do anything. For 3 streams, the pronunciation of that one word gets worse. Yeah, I mean, I don't read things. Rest Snore Ursaluna, I could see it. It's a slow Diggersby. I would rather use Diggersby in this Pokemon. 100%. Diggersby is better than this thing. That being said, Wolf's way better than me. So if you want to listen to Wolf, that's fine. But I know Wolf definitely says a lot of things are good, because he knows that people want them to be good and will watch the videos when the clicks, blah, 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 whatever, YouTube things. I think everyone does that stuff to an extent. Hell, I uploaded a video today with Jolteon, but I didn't say Jolteon was like rank 1 broken, you know? Cruise control for cool. I think it's weird when people push narratives that like all you got to do is just copy me or do this and then like you're good to go, without like understanding the reasons why. People should do a better job of like explaining the exact situations in which something's good, so people that aren't as good as them can understand, you know? I doubt Ursaluna's on Wolf's Worlds team. Yup. There you go. It's one of those things where you can say something's good all you want to get people to over-respect it, use it, and then when everyone else has Ursaluna and Wolf's the one teching Ice Beam Cresselia, Wolf's the one teching like Rocky Helmet Ice Beam Cresselia, we'll see who gets the last laugh. Alright. We're on to Cresselia, the best Pokemon in this game. Cresselia broken. We already take a look at it. This is like the best stat line of like any Pokemon that's ever existed in terms of walls. Urshifu checks both of these. And so that's one of the reasons why you didn't see Heatran or Cresselia that much in Sword and Shield. That being said, I'm still definitely putting Cresselia in OP tier. OP. Very, very good. You can just not die to the Urshifu. Remember, Urshifu was like really good because we had like Cali in like the later forms of Sword and Shield, which the as one turned off berries. Cresselia can just hold that Dark Reduction berry and be like, Urshifu, Urshi what? Like, you're dead, bro. Like, let's go. Will the nerf affect Cress? What's the nerf? Is it like losing some base defense? Doesn't matter. Cresselia has like, this Pokemon's super cracked. Right? Doesn't matter at all. Doesn't matter. Hisuian Samurai. I love these mid-legendaries so much. They make focus metas, IMO, not in a bad way. It's fine. I don't really mind formats like this. I'm so mad Cresselia got nerfed, yet they introduced this broken offensive stuff. Yeah, they nerf them on stats every once in a while. They lose like 5 or 10 base stats. Lost base defense and special events. It's not important. It's really not. Crescent and Ruins meta? Yeah. Cresselia, like, alright, so the thing about Cresselia is it can do a bunch of different things, right? Cresselia can just carry the game if it feels like it. Like, this is a checkmate piece if played correctly. That it is, right? This will win the game if you don't respect it. So while it's doing that, while you have to respect those options, thank you for the follow, appreciate it. It could be setting Trick Rooms. People say it still has Ally Switch, which it looks like it does. That's just awkward, right? But it also gets like D-Gleam, Energy Ball, and the big thing is this Pokemon can use Trick Room and Icy Wind, and they're actually usually on the same set. And this freedom of choice with this stat line is really hard to play around, because all it takes, even if you don't want to go Icy Wind, you can go Ice Beam, right? And you can have a team that's like, this messes up Ursaluna, this messes up Landorus. There's so many things, right? Life doing Heal Ball in one move. Yeah, that's kind of busted. Lunar Blessing? Yeah, that's freaking cracked AF. Like, that's really good. Oh no, you're gonna cure your Ursaluna, guys. This is a nerf to Ursaluna. So yeah, Cresselia is really good. You say Fairy, Terra, or Water Cresselia? No, I don't think. I think you want to go Steel sometimes. You want to go with something that has a ground weakness still, but that you can avoid. So it's like Fire Terra. Could be good. All right, Hisuian Samurott. I've seen a lot of people. Electric Cresselia is probably really good. Hisuian Samurott. And both Samurotts are on the list, but like for some reason not on the tier list, right? But yeah. I've seen so many people say, like, I can't wait for the Hisuian Mons to be legal. Hisuian Samurott. It gets sharpness. It's like Gallade. But let's compare it to Gallade. And let's just be realistic. Right? So, Gallade has an 80 base speed. And that's the stat line you got to look at with these guys. 85 is usable. I would say 80 is definitely not, which is one of the reasons why you don't see Gallade that often. This thing has a lot less attack than Gallade. And you have to go Jolly on both. So, it's like, this thing... it's not going to actually get the KOs even with sharpness, right? And then it might have some good moves like Aqua Cutter and all those other things like that, but like realistically, this thing cannot hang in a format with like Landorus, Regieleki, Fluttermane bundle. It's one of those things similar to this thing is a perfect example of like you need to have the right Pokemon to get the right speed control, get up the right board state, and then yeah, if you have like the perfect Tailwind core with like the right fake out users or redirections or screens, and you come with a Samurott and get like 2 KOs, it can look really good. But like, that's not Samurott doing that. You could have done the same thing with the Gallade, which technically would have done it better, right? What does Ceaseless Edge do? Sets a lot of spikes on the opposing side, and it's not that strong, and it's not 100% accurate. So it's not bad, right? Right? There's so many other dark types. I don't see a single situation use this thing over like that Sneasler thing. Guys do a Mach Punch or a D-Gleam or like a Vacuum Wave or like literally anything. So it's like, I'm definitely put this in mid. It's not great. It still has decent base stats, but basically this Pokemon wastes like too much base stats and special attack. But this Pokemon has like technically like 40 less base stats than it really even should. So it's not great. It's not great. I'd rather just set spikes with a Pokemon that was good, right? I'd rather just use a Glamora, right? If you get Samurott with Focus Energy Sharpness Boost, see, that's the thing is like, how do you get those off, right? How do you actually get the Focus Energy off with Samurott? And realistically, Focus Energy with Inteleon would just be better. That's the thing, it's like, it's too hard to get it off. Hisuian Lilligant. This is a Pokemon that's going to be pretty important. So if we compare Lilligants, Hisuian Lilligant is basically exactly the same, except for it can be Hustle and built physical, and has 105 base speed, which is very good, but not as good as you might think. Now, this thing gets things like close combats, it still gets the Encores, does it still get After You? It still gets the After You, it should still get like Sleep Powder. Yeah, so it still gets all the cool things that you want Lilligant to do, right? It gets Ice Spinners, it's a good Pokemon. I'm trying to think of like what's this thing's special move thing. Victory Dance. Raise user attack defense speed by 1. It's pretty cool, right? It's a cool mon. 105 base speed though is not amazing. It's fine. It's just like it's not 110. And as weird as it sounds, like let's sort things by speed. So it not being 110 means there's a lot of things that are like 110 and 111 in this format. Things like Thundurus, things like all these other guys that like they get their tailwind and then like next turn they just mess you up. Like there's a lot of things that are just a little bit too fast. And 105, yeah, that lets you outspeed all the base 100s. But like, I wish it was. It's not Jumpluff either. That's the thing is like Jumpluff is 110, right? I think Hisuian Lilligant is very good though. That being said, like I'm not trying to make this Pokemon bad. This is definitely a great pick. It's going to be good on Sun teams. It's good next to Torkoal. Torkoal's not going to be as good in this format, so like Sunroom is going to be harder to play. But it's still a great Pokemon. It's actually just a decent Sashmon. You can just kind of put like, you can just go like Protect, Sleep Powder, Close Combat, and something, and this Pokemon will be viable. But it's not like anything better than like a Sashmon. It gets Encore, yeah, it does. It gets all that stuff. So like Lilligant gets like a bunch of really cool stuff. But it'll be better when Groudon's legal, because it just needs better Sun users. Basculin, we don't need to look at the regular Basculin. This is definitely just a not great pick. Basculin Legion might be something worth looking at in just a minute, but regular Basculin, I don't even know why it's on this tier list. Hisuian Zoroark. To understand Hisuian Zoroark, we need to understand Zoroark. So, and what they bring to the table. So, Hisuian Zoroark is basically Zoroark, but better in almost every way. It has a little bit better special attack. It has a little bit better speed. It has that 110, which I just talked about as being very, very important. It has better defensive typing in normal Ghost, which means it is immune to Shadow Ball, which you can pair it with things that are like really weak to Shadow Ball and like tunnel in those Shadow Balls and force them to overcommit and stuff like that. So I love pairing this with like Ghost types. It's a good Pokemon. It's good with Sash. It can be built with Specs because it has that speed tier. It can be built with Scarf. Say it Walls Mouse Save. Good Pokemon. Gets Detect. Bitter Malice is like not terrible. It's not terrible. I think Night Days is still actually like a better signature move. Gets things like Icy Wind. It's a good Pokemon. It's not anything to like write home about, like breaking the bank, but I would definitely put it at least in good. I think most people are going to put it around good. I'll put it in great because I'm going to use the crap out of this thing. But you think it got its speed nerfed to equal base Zoroark? I could see that. I don't think so though. I think it's still base 110. But it doesn't really matter. Either way, this Pokemon is very good. It's Zoroark, but with better defensive typing. And the effectiveness that like it and Zoroark could bring to team previews is very nice. So I like this Pokemon. I think I've talked about this before. I have probably the most amount of circuit points ever earned with Zoroark. I have like well over 100. I'm probably about like 150-ish. I don't think anyone else has done anything else with Zoroark. I've taken Zoroark to like at least 10 Premier Challenges, regionals, mid-seasons, stuff like that. So yeah, I would say that I'm one of the Zoroark authorities when it comes to like all the weird shit that you can do with this Pokemon. And I think this one's good. I still probably would use the regular Zoroark though, just because I think Night Days is a very, very good move. Hisuian Braviary. So let's take a look at Braviary. So take a look at both Braviaries. You see the Hisuian Braviary is a lot slower, and it's a special attacker. And it gets Tinted Lens, which is actually really good. Does this guy get Trick Room? No Trick Room, though. Big sad. This guy's okay. Braviary's fine. I still would probably rather use regular Braviary, but like we used regular Braviary in a stream like last week, and it actually was like really good. That being said, this Pokemon's kind of just mid. Definitely just like mid energy. I wouldn't put it as like not great because it's evolved, right? You run Shivers as well. I think it's cool, Mon. I think it gets what's its special move thing? It gets Dazzling Gleams. It gets Hurricanes. What's its like super move that it gets? All these guys get one like super move. Does this one just not Esper Wing? Yeah, 100% chance to raise user speed by 1 high crit. That's a great move. That's so good. Yeah, but it's a 65 base speed, so it would need like 2 of them and full speed investment Timid to actually even almost do something, and it's still worse than a Spathra in like every possible way. So it's like, it's okay, but not great. Tornadus. We had a good time playing Pokemon. You know, if you want a Tailwind, you set it. You know, if you really want a Tailwind, you go like Talonflame or like Murkrow. But then the issue with those guys is Talonflame uses to Intimidate, and like Murkrow's not that strong. Tornadus, though, especially the Defiant one, sets that Prankster Tailwind at a 111 base speed tier. So you can't like taunt it or do anything weird about it, and they can always go Ghost Terra or they can hold a Cloak. And then they also gave Tornadus this move. Where's the move that it got? Bleak Windstorm, which is a special attack. It has an 80% accuracy. It's still good. It hits both targets and has a 30% chance to lower their speed by 1. So you have speed control with your speed control while you're getting some speed control. So, what does Tornadus coming into this meta do? Because it can get things like Bleak Windstorm. It can get things like Tailwind. It can get things like Taunt. It can get just a lot of stuff, right? A lot of stuff. It can still get things like Heat Waves, Icy Wind, Terra Blasts if you want to have a different coverage move, Protect, right? So what does this Pokemon mean for the game? It's of my opinion that this Pokemon existing in this format with how this works is going to completely change the game, and that Bleak Windstorm's super cracked, Tailwind's cracked, Prankster's cracked. I would say like there should be another tier above the highest tier that we could just put this Tornadus in, because this is by far and away a Pokemon that invalidates every other Pokemon that like plays this game. If you ever would like to set any sort of speed control, like there's no reason to not use a Tornadus ever. So it's like, imagine we have this format for technically 4 months. We have 3 months of it happening and a month until it starts. You guys are going to get so freaking sick about Tornadus and missing Bleak Windstorms and Speed Ties. It is just going to be the worst. And the 30% chance to lower speed is just not great. I think a lot of people are going to cloak them as well. I think a lot of people are going to cloak them so they don't have to get speed dropped by other Torns. But like, it invalidates every other Tailwind setter that exists, right? Every other Tailwind setter, every single one of these Pokemon, with maybe some slight exclusions to Talonflame and Murkrow because they're Prankster and Gale Wings respectively, they do not get to set Tailwind. I've said this before. You go Prankster Tailwind setter and something that kills them, right? So let's say my opponent wanted to use an Iron Jugulus to set Tailwind, and I led Tornadus and like literally anything. I'm going to say a Goldango, and I go Tailwind attack. Because of the way dynamic speed control works, my Goldango immediately gets the Tailwind. So even if you're faster than the Goldango is with your Jugulus, it immediately gets that Tailwind boost, which means I can kill you before you set the Tailwind, right? There are very few Pokemon that are going to be able to do anything about that. Isn't this a bad example since Jug is Dark? It doesn't have anything to do with that. I just picked a Jugulus. I mean, I could pick Jumpluff. I could pick Noivern. I could pick Roaring Moon. I could pick Volcarona. I could just Power Gem that thing, right? Or they will be Sash if non-priority. I can also just taunt them. You're thinking I was going to say taunt, right? No, we don't even have to taunt them. We can just kill them. Right? Yeah, Prankster Tailwind doesn't matter against Dark types. So, I'm going to read this comment. Hisuian Zoroark and the Zoroark in general are such hilarious mind game by existing. Although both generations of Zoroarks were introduced to force competitive players to show more of their team to their opponent. I mean, yeah, that's the game. But yeah, it invalidates so many Tailwind setters. Like, they just don't get to, like, play the game anymore. And I'm talking mostly about, like, open team sheet and, like, tournament play, but, like, I can use Taunt to stop Trick Room. Oh, they can pair it with, like, you know, Psychic Terrain, Dark Terra, stuff like that. But, like, Tornadus gets way too many tools. And the fact that, like, Bleak Windstorm's a special attack on a Pokemon that already has a high special attack is stupid. This Pokemon is stupid busted. Really, really stupid busted. And Tornadus is busted. And as far as this Tornadus goes, it's kind of just okay. It's not, I'm going to put it in mid. It's really good in singles. It's not that great in VGC. Thundurus. Very similar to Tornadus. Thundurus is really, really good. 111 base speed is that same really, really good tier. It supports all the right stuff. People like to also build this guy with Defiant sometimes. It's not going to be as good as it was in Sword and Shield because there's no Dynamax. So don't think that Defiant Thundy's back and it's time. It's not time yet. They get Snarl now, and I actually really like this. That's just new. They didn't used to get Snarl on Thundies, so that's really cool. Kyra's not legal. Nope. So, yeah, I think this is actually a good buff to Thundy. And that being said, Thundy's definitely going to be Great Pokemon. Really, really good Pokemon. You're going to see this thing everywhere. It might even be OP. It might be in the OP tier, but I'm going to put it at least in great. It's definitely good enough to go into OP because it will see enough play, but very, very solid Pokemon. And regular Thundy, I'm just going to put in good. It's usable. Not putting Prankster Eerie Impulse in OP is weird. See, that's the thing. Is like, is that enough? Is that good though? The thing is, it's like Prankster Eerie Impulse. Like we've already had those. It's called Light Screen, and it's like we've had Grimmsnarl already. I don't think that's good enough to put into OP. Prankster Eerie Impulse is not like that's. So when you Prankster Eerie Impulse, what are you getting out of it? What are you getting out of it? You're stopping a special attacker from like one-shotting you. You can do the same thing with like a Fake Out or like a Light Screen or like a Follow Me, right? And we already have those things, right? I don't think Eerie Impulse is better than like a Ting Lu, right? You say for Parachance? I mean, I'd rather just set Tailwind. Because you got to think about it. Like, I really don't think that like Thundy being able to Eerie Impulse something is worth like building everything around. Yeah, Eerie Impulse is good in max formats to cripple max specifically. Yeah, so it's like that's a great like assumption. That's a great analysis. Like I don't think that it's viable. It's not that it's not viable. There's so many situations in which like it's just that it doesn't do it. I'd rather just screen. Is having double E-speed users going to be a strat for dealing with Torn? Definitely, 100%. And they're probably just gonna have Ghost Terror anyways. Love hearing your reviews on new metas. Thank you for the sub. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, Thundy's still really good. It might be, like, up here in OP, but I just personally think that, like, Torn is not nearly as good as Thundurus. And that's just my opinion. You can just kill Mons without Dynamax. Yep, there's no reason to cripple things. That's right. And I actually really like the Snarl. I think Snarl's better than Eerie Impulse now. All right, we got Landorus. Both Landorus forms are actually really good. Thundy also got a new move. What was that move that it got? Another reason why I don't like while Bolt Storm is special, 20% chance to paralyze. I think it hits both. It's a good move. It's a good mon. You know what? Fuck it. You guys are right. But it's not for Eerie Impulse. It's for that like freaking AoE fucking overdrive bullshit move. But let's check out Landorus. So both Landoruses are good. I actually still really like regular Landorus. It has really good base stats. 101 base speed is perfect. Sheer Force is good and Sand Force is good. They're actually both really good. And the thing about Landorus, especially that other variant, is it gets this stupid Stand-Seer Storm, which would proc from the Sheer Force as well. And it's just a lot of freaking damage. It's a special move. And Landoruses actually are probably going to be built mostly special in this format just because like that move is like really good. You're at least going to see mixed Landoruses. So like Landorus would definitely be like S tier. And I think this Pokemon is good enough to be in great. I think it's good. We're going to see a lot of Sheer Force play. I do think so. So very, 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 very good Pokemon. And again, like this can 20% chance to burn both. That's so dumb. It's 20% chance to burn. It's like a mini Scald that hits both. Does Sheer Force boost that move? Sheer Force boosts that move and you lose the percent chance to burn. So yeah, Sheer Force boosts it. Imagine like double Earth powering. That's what it does. Throw a Life Orb in this thing, like, oh my gosh, Landorus just goes to town. So yeah, great stuff. Delphox. I like Delphox. Delphox has a couple things going for it. Delphox has a 104 base speed, which like is really good. Is that a buff? I could have swore Delphox was a base 100 like 10 years ago. Right? 114 special attack's good. I like this Pokemon. It gets cool stuff. It gets like Encores. It got screens back in the day. It has cool tech. I like this Pokemon. So it's like, I'm probably more biased just because I think it is a unique typing of Fire Psychic, which you don't see all that often. So like, I'm probably going to put it higher than most people would. I'm going to put it in good. And because I think I can use this Pokemon to actually be good. And I think its best set will be built as Sash. Realistically, though, this Pokemon's definitely mid. But I like it here. It's niche. Yeah, and it definitely fits. Like, this is definitely, if anyone's like a fan of my content, they can be like, that's who would use that Pokemon. You know? Yeah, I really think it has the skills and the tools to do well to like close out. And it's different from Ursaluna because it does things that like no other Pokemon really can, I think. It's not better than Ursaluna, but I was using, you know, I don't think that it's something that comes in after the game's already won. I think it's a pivotal piece. Tell me why Ninetales isn't Fire Psychic. Just because it would have not worked in Gen 1. That's it. Eruption makes Typhlosion better. It is better. Typhlosion is better, but Delphox is really cool. Delphox and Magician is like a good ability. So like there's a lot of cool things to do with Delphox that I think people sleep on. I would say it's a good Pokemon. We got, what is this? It's Chestnut. I don't hate Chestnut either. I like it. Chestnut's cool. Base 64 is a little bit too slow to go into Trick Room. It's a little bit too weak. Decent defense. It's just kind of a mid-mon. It kind of just fills in the same hole with all these other mons that like are wasting points and stats they don't need. You know, this is where a lot of starters fall into. Mons that aren't like optimally using their base stat total. Which is kind of good. Masquerain this gen? Masquerain's cool. I think it's a cool Pokemon. You hit both enemy Pokemon once you do Steel? It's a good question. It's probably the one on the left. Do you think Rain, Sun, or Sand gets buffed in Reg D? I don't actually know yet. I haven't looked into any of that sort of stuff. Probably Rain. Alright, this thing. What is this thing called? The rock guy. Avlug. Avlug Hisui. Both of them are coming over. I think I already had Avlug, but Avlug Hisui. It's nothing special. It's not. Ice Rock's not good typing. And so, I don't think this thing gets anything like really broken. Mountain Gale. 30% chance to make him flinch, but like, it's too slow. It gets Recover, it gets Rocks, it gets Wide Guard. It's kind of just not great. It's worse than mid. Yeah, it's just not great. Yeah. It's Chansey that's weak to everything. I'm just not a fan of this thing. Regular Avlug's like has been viable in the past. Regular, not this one. This one doesn't work. Hisui and Goodra. I've heard a lot of people also talking about like how busted this Goodra is. So it gets Sap Sipper, it gets Shell Armor over Hydration and Gooey. Those are all really good abilities, by the way. It gets basically 30 more base defense, a little bit less HP, and a little bit less speed. So it's actually really good. That being said, let's see a couple things. What's this thing's signature move? Gets Life Dew, which is one of my favorite moves on Goodra. Does this thing have a signature move? Shelter. And is that a good move? Shelter. Raises your defense by 2. It's Acid Armor. I could have swore that was better in Legend Arceus. Yeah, so this Pokemon's good. Sap Sipper's good. I took Hydration Goodra to Worlds in 2017. So, like, I liked Hydration Goodra. I still also really like Gooey. I made a video talking about, like, what makes Goodra good and the specific forms where it's been good. Steel Dragon typing's great. You know, Dialga's good for a reason. That being said, I think this Pokemon's fine. I think that it's gonna see play. But I don't think it's, like, as meta-defining. It's really reactive. Acid, Armor, Body Press, or AV. I don't think I would use any of those. Those don't seem good at all. I think Goodra's just better built with like good special coverage that can like pin people for overcommitting into specific types. So it's like if you want to use Lando, I can tech Ice Beam. If you want to tech like a Steel or a Fairy Mons, I can go Steel moves. And if you want to go like things that have like Scizor, I can go Flamethrower. So Goodra has a little bit of like everything. And so that's where I would probably use it. I don't know if I'd go lefties, probably just AV. I'd probably just go AV. And I think the best move that Goodra gets in a lot of situations actually is Feint. You can build a very, very bulky Goodra set with Feint. So that being said, Goodra's definitely in the good Pokemon list. It might even be great. I could see myself using a lot of this thing too. So I'm putting good. So that's just me. I think that it might actually be a little bit better than I'm projecting it to be. Just because it doesn't really die. But like, we have like bulky AV vested Steel Mons at home. I'd rather use a Scizor in like every single situation. Right? Yeah, normal Goodra is great. Goodra. Yeah, and I think that like gaining that fighting typing is just going to be really, or fighting weakness is just going to be really bad for it. Same thing with the ground weakness. It doesn't really help. Carbink. Carbink's actually not bad. Put it in mid. Best thing Carbink gets is like sturdy Trick Room. It's usable. Decidui. So there's two Decidueyes, right? There is the regular Decidueye, which is a little bit faster, a little bit bulkier. It's more of a special attacker just because it leans that way. Then there's the fighting one, and it gets scrappy, right? So let's take a look at this guy. I think this guy gets a really cool move as well. Each of these guys get some sort of weird move. Gets Swords Dance, that's cool. Triple Arrows. High crit, and you can like lower their defense service and 30% chance flinch. It's cool, but he's not fast enough to make this work at all. And it's too slow. Sorry, it's too fast to work in Trick Room. So this is a cool Pokemon, but is it good? It's not. It's not good. Yeah, like, it's cool. It's really cool, but it's not good. Regular Decidueye is definitely mid. And this guy's also mid. I was talking about this yesterday, how all of the Hisuiemons, I feel, were tuned for singles play. Zoroark, Ursaluna, Samurott, Decidueye, Braviary. They're all like tuned to be way better in singles, right? They're good for raids and stuff too, but they're like not really there. Same thing goes for like Electrode. Lilligant works in doubles, but you know what I mean? Like, they're made for singles. And Lilligant's better in singles. Its signature move is better in singles than doubles, right? So I just feel that, like, this Decidueye, and even, like, Sneasler, they're both really good examples. Like, I don't see a single reason to use, like, this Decidueye over Sneasler, like, ever. But they're all just better in singles. So they're better. There's a lot of, like, Sashmons, Scarfmons, which, like, those don't really hold up in, like, an open team sheet best of 3 format that much. Rillaboom. Rillaboom's good. Grassy Terrain's really good. People sleep on Grassy Terrain, Grassy Surge. It's just a good mon. And Rillaboom, it loses... what is that stupid grass move? It loses the freaking grass quick attack, right? But, like... Oh, Grassy Glide, yeah. But that's fine. It still gets U-turn. This is the closest thing we have to Incineroar. And a lot of people are actually going to sub this for Incineroar because it gets Fake Out and Pivot from U-turn with passive healing. So, like, this is definitely still a great Pokemon. One of the better fake-out users in the format. Terrain control is going to be very important. And, like, so like, Rillaboom Ting-Lu will be very good. What beats Ting-Lu? Water attacks? Rillaboom Pivot. What beats Rillaboom? Fire attacks? Oh, there's not going to be as many Arcanines in this format, so those are special in this format. Pivot in the Ting-Lu, right? And then, like, being able to give Ting-Lu, like, passive healing on an AV set is going to be, like, really good. So you're going to see a lot of that stuff. Ice attacks? I mean, ice attacks exist, but, like, what mons use ice attacks? Bundle? All we have to do is, like, not die to bundle, which is super easy to do for Rillaboom with, like, Vest or any other Terra or combination of opponents, and we just kill the bundle, right? Not only Lost Guide, Glide got nerfed. Well, good. That's stupid. So yeah, Rillaboom's still going to be really good. Really good. One of the better fake-out users of the format. Inteleon. I think Inteleon's okay. It has a 120 base speed. And we were talking about, like, Focus Energy, like, Samurott. I like Inteleon. It's a good mon. Torrent is actually a good ability on it, even if you want to use Sash. You can go, like, Focus Energy Sniper set with, like, Scope Lens, and you can use things like Snipe Shot. This is a good Pokemon. I think people sleep on Inteleon. It's one of the few mons that gets, like, Soak. It gets dual screens. It gets U-turns. This Pokemon has a lot of stuff actually going for it. And whenever there's an Inteleon on the board, your opponent has to, like, kind of respect what you're doing at least a little bit. So it's definitely, like, here for me. I would put Inteleon in good. I think it outspeeds a lot of things and threatens a lot of things. It's great versus Genies, too, by the way. It's great versus Genies. So, yeah, think about it. Think about using Inteleon. Is Charizard on the list? It's just not on the list that I found here, but Charizard's kind of just mid. Yep, Inteleon's faster than Cinderace. It's faster than a lot of stuff. Cinderace I also think is not on this list for some reason, but, like, it's fine, whatever. The Cinderace is pretty mid without Dynamax. Cubfu, definitely not great. You don't care about that. Glastrier, good Pokemon. I think the Ice Horse is really good. I think in any situation where, like, Ursaluna is, like, being said to be, like, this really, like, busted, overpowered thing, like, Glastrier kind of just comes in and says, like, bro, I'm literally you with, I think, a better ability with a way better speed tier. Like, first of all, Ursaluna's going to have to, like, compete with the fact that, like, Trick Room goes up and Ursaluna's like, yeah, Trick Room. And then it just straight loses to this thing. Right? And this thing gets speed, like, do we see, like, why do people think Ursaluna is going to be, like, the best thing ever when we have Ice Horse right here, bro? Am I wrong? Tell me, can someone please tell me I'm wrong? How does Ursaluna think that it hangs in this format? Just gets one-shotted. No one likes Icicle Crash. No, yeah, dude, it's like Ice Horse super broken. It would be good Dynamax Mon. Oh, definitely. So, yeah, Ice Horse is great. I put it OP. You can just splash this Pokemon on your team. You can just throw this Pokemon on your team and just solve Trick Room matchups. Checks Amoonguss. He obviously checks Ursaluna. Doesn't have to care about, like... being able to Terrasilize your horse is going to be, like, kind of nutty, too. So, be watching out for this guy. This guy's the big fat horse. And, like, you can intimidate all you want, but, like, it just gets those boosts back. Urshifu. Another thing. There's two different Urshifu forms. This list only has like one thing, but they both get Unseen Fist, which go through Protect. Both get 97 base speed. You can go Water or Dark. They're both amazing in this format, and the meta will be basically built around enabling your Urshifus to do well. So you're starting to see a pattern. You're going to do things like setting your Tailwind with the Tornadus to enable your Urshifu, and you're going to use things like Landorus and Heatran with maybe a little bit of Pivots into Cresselia to be able to wall those things, with cleaning up with things like Lastria. Like, that's how the format's going to go. Buff it with Swords Dance. I heard that it got Swords Dance. I don't think it needs them, though. But, like, their special moves auto-crit. So, Wicked Blow crits from Urshi Dark, and Surging Strike is a multi-hitting water move that crits. Really, really good. I still think that, like, Course doesn't even need Amulet. You can still I think AV is still the right way to do it. But, very, very good, Mon. It's going to be everywhere. Everywhere. So, yeah, be watching out for that. Spectrier is another really good Mon that I think people are sleeping on. Spectrier is the ghost equivalent of the horses, and it has a 130 base speed, which is actually a really, really good number here. It's still slower than Fluttermane. And so this is a Pokemon that's either going to be really, really good, or it's not even going to be able to see play because of Flutter. I still think it's going to see play. Really good special attack. Grimnay is amazing. It gets access to things like Snarl. It gets Haze. It gets access to like Nasty Plots, Taunts, Wisps. So it's like Fluttermane, but different. And as weird as it sounds, I'm going to put it up here as well. I'm going to put it up here. I think that it's like, it might not be OP, but I think it's going to be very usable. I think it's going to be just as usable as Fluttermane. Yeah, we've seen so many different supporty Spectrier builds. Like, it's good. It's a really good Pokemon. Hell, the whole format that they like banned Dynamax, this Pokemon was still like everywhere. So I like this thing. So many dark types. But like, what are the dark types? Where are these dark types? Urshi Dark? You can check Urshi Dark. You can just wisp it, you know? So like, all right. I don't think like type doesn't matter anymore with Terra. It doesn't. It doesn't matter at all. The Ruinmons, you can wisp half of them. Like, the Ruinmons, like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I think that, like, maybe Shampoo could be an issue, but if you have the right speed control, you're fine. And good Terra, like, Spectre is not frail. That's the thing about it, is, like, sick defense is pretty frail, but, like, it's actually kind of thick on the Spadef side. You're not going to kill it. Fire Terra for both Urshi. I mean, I think that there's just so many situations where, like, this Pokemon can be viable. And it might be too... Yeah, you guys bullied me into, like, putting it in great. But, like, I still think it's good. I still think it's good. Yeah, because, like, you can use those weaknesses to, like, tunnel your opponent to bring the mons you want and then punish them accordingly. Regieleki. Holy moly, look at this thing. Look at this thing. Regieleki, 200 base speed. And people are thinking you can go, like, it's one of the best. It gets Electro Web, which you can go for those immediate, like, speed drops. Everyone's going to use Electro Web. It gets Transistor. It has its own built-in, like, damage multiplier. You can build Sash, Orb, Spec, so many different things. But also, like, you can just do, like... you can just use, like, this. It gets Wild Charge. It gets Extreme Speed. You put it next to your Shampoo. Right? Like, that's still really good. Regieleki is also, like, super S tier. It's a great partner for things like the Genies, like Urshis and stuff like that. Yeah. Like, Regieleki is still, like, incredibly, incredibly broken. See it. You're going to see it on every team. It's the Pokemon that enables these other S tier mons through the use of, like, Electro, being able to drop those speed tiers. And, like, Regieleki's existence is going to change what speed tier things need to get to outspeed and Tailwind. So, like, it's just mere existence means, like, anything under, what is it, like a base 100 speed, like, can't even be used in Tailwind teams, just because like it still does not speed Regieleki, so like he can still put up the Electro and you would still lose, right? If you didn't have Tinglu, I'd be terrified of Lecky. I still think though that like Lecky can be very useful against those things and force the Tinglus to come in, and like Lecky can always Terra. It can always be built physical. Like you can build a physical, like Water Terra a Lecky, you know, nuke the Tinglu that way. Yeah, it's like with a physical one, you know, it's still really good. It's crazy how Bundle and Flutter can outspeed a Lecky. I mean, they need they need speed boosting items to do that though. Regidrago is the dragon equivalent of Regieleki. It gets dragon energy, which is an AoE eruption based off your health. I like it. I think it's good. I don't think it's great. There's too many fairies in this format for that, and they start as fairies. So, like, you know, I said defensive typing doesn't matter, but, like, your opponent's defensive typing matters. Yeah, I like Regidrago. I think it's still good. I'll use a lot of this Pokemon. It definitely slots in on, like, the Pokemon that get enabled into being better by things like Tornadus, Landorus, Regieleki. You know, you can just kind of put Drago in there in some situations. The Weirdeer. Weirdeer is actually a really cool mon. Very similar to Stantler. Decent speed, good attack, great HP, great bulk. It gets Intimidate and Frisk, which are great. So is Sap Sipper. The cool thing this guy gets is Trick Room here. It's the only Trick Room user that gets Intimidate other than Stantler. And this is also, like, Stantler is also going to be somewhat usable. It also gets that Bash move that is not bad. Psyshield Bash is good. 100% chance to raise user's defense by 1. Very, very good mon. Gets Skill Swap Intimidate. Like, this thing's usable. Definitely usable. I'm going to use the crap out of this thing. Definitely in the good Pokemon list. 100%. One of the better Trick Room users. Very bulky. It's a good Intimidate user. If you're weak to Landorus, you can pair this thing in. No Body Press is sad. I don't think it needs it. I don't think it needs it at all. I think this is fine. I think that I wouldn't even put Body Press on it if I could have it. Does that make sense? I don't think I would use Body Press. There's no room. If you have like Protect, Trick Room, Psyshield Bash, maybe like a Skill Swap or one other move, there's no room for Body Press anyways. You're gonna add, you want to hear this? Never lucky, bro. Does Dark Terra stop Prankster? Only if Prankster is like targeting that mon with something. So it can't stop like Prankster Tailwind, but like it could stop like a Prankster Taunt. Cleavor. I've heard a lot of people also say Cleavor is like very good. That's another example of a Pokemon that I think is very good in singles and tuned for singles, but not for this one. Sharpness is good. Sheer Force is good. Swarm's still actually not like a bad ability in some situations, but obviously other abilities are better. Sharpness is good. This is what people use it for. It's a little bit too slow. This is a good example of like this thing cannot outspeed a Lecky. So like even if you pair it next to the Tornadus, a Lecky still just outspeeds it and kills it, right? Or Electro Webs it so it's then slower than our teammates, right? I think it's okay. I'll probably try it. Has a lot of weaknesses. It's kind of just okay. I'll put it in good, but it's probably, by the time the format even comes out within a month, it'll definitely be more like mid. Definitely be more mid, I think. This guy's not anything worthy to write home about. I actually would probably rather have had something like Inner Focus, believe it or not. Like, that's just my opinion. Stone Axe should proc Sheer Force. It would. Was Stone Axe. What's right here? Stone Axe. Set Stealth Rocks on the target side. That's still like, it's okay. But yeah, it's a secondary effect, right? So, yeah. But it's just decent. It's not great. It's too slow. It's a base 65 move, which kills nothing. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, I think like you get me the most. It's like your opponent, like, if there's a situation where you're using like moves that like don't like one-shot something or immediately drastically change the board in a way that like you automatically win the game in like 2 turns, they're just not worth using, because there are Pokemon that do that up here. Let's see. We got these 2 things. Enormous Rhesus. Enamoris. Right? There's a lot of talk on Twitter today about this Pokemon and its legitimacy, right? And how we're going to see all these Eamorises at Worlds, and they're going to be like shiny, 0 IV speed, when that's like not possible, you know? Because like you don't even know what your IVs are until you transfer them over, right? And it can be built as like a Sash Sweeper, with this one that has Contrary, which is going to be great. This Pokemon's going to be amazing. Or it can be built as like a Trick Room Overcoat Mon with a 46 base speed. Both of them are going to be very, very viable. This Pokemon's going to be everywhere. It has a really, really cool move as well. It gets Mystical Fire, which is great. It gets really good coverage. It gets Spring's Tide Storm, which is a special attack, which plays in the fact that this guy can be both physical or special, but it leans special. And it has a 30% chance to lower the foe's attack by 1. And I think the other guy gets like a defense boost if... Yeah. I think that the Springtide Storm does a different effect depending on what form you're in. But Overcoat's an amazing ability. Both these are really good. They're actually like both like S tier, and the meta is going to be like built around things that they do. So good. You're going to see this on like every single team, and it's just going to be like really, really splashable. So really, really good. Blunder Policy good? No, I wouldn't use Blunder Policy. What about Eerie Impulse next to Thunderous and using Nasty Plot Moonblast? But, like, why would you do that? Like, so that's the thing. It's like Eerie Impulse next to Thunderous and then using Nasty Plot Moonblast. Like, why wouldn't I just set Tailwind and kill them? There's no reason to, like, take the time to go, like, that in-depth to do, like, your opponent's not just going to sit by and let you do that. They're using their Alecki, their Tornadus, their Landorus. They're shoving your face in. Or they're Trick Rooming you or something. You know, like, they don't just let you do things, right? So for every, like, it's just like, it's like freaking Full Metal Alchemist. The law of equivalent exchange applies in VGC. To do things, you have to take into account that your opponent can also do things, and there's a cost. Cute Charm? I use Contrary. Contrary is what everyone's going to use. Contrary is a really good ability. And the last two are the Bastia Legions. Again, another Pokemon that's heavily tuned for singles. Can you believe it, guys? Can you believe it? It's like tuned for singles. All right, Basque Legion. There's two of them, right? One has way more special attack, and one has way more physical attack, and that's cool. They get Swift Swim, but they're a little bit too slow. Adaptability is probably what most people use these guys for. They get Last Respects, right? Which is good. It's better in singles. You think Alecki's going to fall off? Tornadus to fall off? Why would Tornadus ever fall off? That's the thing. I was like, people will get bored and people will try other things to like have fun. But like when it comes time to like do tournaments for money, I guarantee you this is going to be the most stale like worlds ever. Because it's going to be every single person using like the same two teams. It's going to be one. They're both going to have Tornadus, right? And one's going to be a little bit bulkier. And one's going to be like hyper aggressive. And that's 1000% going to be the format. People thought like 2015 with like Chalk was bad. Like this is going to be the one tournament where like everyone's going to use it, you know? Everyone's just going to do the same thing. Yeah, Basque Legion's fine, right? I'm not the biggest fan. It's bulky, but like I don't think this thing breaks the game, right? Swift Swim, it's not fast enough to actually like work. And adaptability is cool. It's a really big delete button, but it's still too fast to be inside Trick Room. Am I missing something about these guys? They're not that great. It gets things like Head Smash, yeah. It gets like Liquidates, and it gets Mold Breaker if you wanted to use it, right? But I just don't think this thing's like that viable. It's probably just mid. Am I missing something here? I could be super missing something. And like Last Respect just isn't that great in VGC, in my opinion. You have to be like in a losing position. So that's the list. Look at our list. Is it? I think it's a pretty good list. I think maybe I treated some Pokemon earlier on too good. Like, I think that Electrode, if we were to move things, might go down here. Typhlosion's definitely more here. Heatran might be more in the great category. I'm going to put it there. Just because of Urshi. And I think that's probably correct. So that's the list. Ursaluna is definitely in the great tier. It'll just see enough play to where like someone will get results with it and it'll be around. Where Cinderace, it wasn't on the tier maker that I had. So Cinderace is mid though. It's not good. Without Dynamax, it's bad. Cinderace and Charizard for some reason weren't on this tier list thing, but they're both just mid. They're really item dependent and they don't really work without Gmax. They're just not great. So that's the list. That is the list. I might make a new one of these every couple weeks to like revisit after we've like tested and learned a lot more things. But this is just from my experience as like a player that's been playing VGC for over 10 years. So the things I've seen, the things I know are going to do well, the way metas are going to turn out, and hopefully you like it.